In the past couple of years, we've highlighted the campaign to make upskirting a crime. That's when someone takes a photo up someone's skirt without their permission. It does happen, and those photos can end up on dedicated upskirting websites, which are pretty big business. The campaign was started by Gina Martin, who realised it had happened to her at a music festival. But no further action was taken because it wasn't a specific sexual offence. This week, legislation was passed to make it a crime in England and Wales. It's already an offence in Scotland. And it's all because of you, Gina Martin.
Hello.
Congratulations. Also with us, Justice Minister Lucy Frazer. Hello. Thanks for coming on the programme. So how do you feel? It's finally become law because of your campaign.
I feel incredibly emotional.
Do you?
Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work and it's been a really long, well, relatively quick in politics, but felt like a huge thing. It's consumed my life, so I'm very, very excited, and it's really exciting because it's politics at its best in a time that is very fractious.
Yeah. How do you get someone to change the law? Can you tell our audience how you did it?
If we did that, I think we'd be here till the evening.
OK, well, can you answer concisely?
Yes. I think you need to get the right support system, you need to make sure you're right in law, you need to partner with the right people who believe in it, and you do not stop and you don't take no for an answer. I mean, we worked very closely with the government, they were very supportive, but it's a long process, but it can be done and a regular person can do it.
Right. How did Justice Minister Lucy Frazer help you?
So in July 2018, you probably remember there was a bit of a bump in the road with an objection to a private member's bill that Lib Dem MP Vera Hobhouse had tabled. And that was obviously a bit of a disappointment, but the same day the public announcement was that the government had backed the bill, and that was all down to Lucy. As soon as Lucy took office, there was an immediate support system there for me.
Okay.
And they were very, very dedicated.
Why was it important to you?
I think it's horrific that women like Gina, who's had a terrible experience, who feel humiliated because of this act. There was a gap in the law, so some people are prosecuted in certain circumstances, but not all. And it was really important to close that gap. And Gina is a brilliant campaigner. She's done a marvellous campaign, and it was great to support that campaign.
And people might not realise that it wasn't a sexual offence. Upskirting wasn't a sexual offence. And wasn't covered by voyeurism legislation either, because that has to happen on private property.
So you can get prosecuted for this action in two circumstances. It's either a public order offence, where this happens in a very public place like a street, or if it happens in a very private place under the Voyeurism Act, for example, a home. But the gap in the law was, for example, if this took place in a school, which is not open to all the public, but open to some, there was a question as to whether you could prosecute. In fact, there were a couple of cases in schools, and obviously that's a really important area where we needed to close that gap.
And for those who don't know your story, Gina, you were waiting for the killers to come on stage at a music festival, and you realised some guy had done this. You grabbed his phone. And someone shouted, "Run!" So you ran with the phone, you found the security, the police came, they were really, really helpful.
Lovely.
They looked at the photograph, but came back to you and said it wasn't graphic enough to be a sexual offence. Is that correct?
Yeah, which when you actually look into the law is incorrect. But that shows to me that although they were very supportive, they were very confused on the law because they knew there was a public nuisance order they could use, but they didn't. But they obviously in their heads this was a sexual offence, so how do they use that?
Sure.
So,
but they also they sort of reassured you by saying, "And it's fine because we've now deleted the photograph," which was your evidence.
Yes, which is like a very putting a sticker on a way bigger problem. You know, it was a lovely. They're trying to help me, but it's not helpful in the long run.
OK. When this went through Parliament as a private member's bill, it was blocked by one of your colleagues, a Conservative MP called Christopher Chope. He said because there wasn't a proper debate around it. Was that a fair objection in hindsight?
So it was a procedural objection. So Christopher Chope has always said he didn't have any issue with the bill itself, but he has opposed...
With the principle?
Yes, with the idea and the criminalisation of upskirting. But he has blocked a number of bills, some of which are extremely valid, and he was objecting not on the principle, but because he thought that this was done without a debate and would just have gone through the House without debate.
And that's my question. In hindsight, do you think that was a fair objection?
Well, I'm pleased that we adopted it as a government bill. We did that pretty speedily, and we've taken this bill through in
I know,
quite
but it wasn't the
short
question. Was there
time.
enough debate?
So I would have liked to have seen it gone through that Friday. There was a clear gap in the law. There was cross-party consensus. No one had suggested that we should not enact this law. So I would have liked to have seen it go through on that day. I mean, people have raised other points during the course of the debate, which they were able to do because we had a debate in Parliament. But in fact, the law went through unamended in the end, so would have gone through, went through on the same basis it was putting that.
And if you're prosecuted for this new offence, what potentially could happen to you? What punishment?
So you could go to prison for up to 2 years, and if it is sexually motivated, you could go on the sex offenders register as well.
Really?
Yeah.
What would you say to the man who did this to you originally, the man who took the photograph?
Well, I'm a bit of a pacifist, so I would have to say, you know, I'm glad you didn't do it to a younger girl who was more inclined to be really affected by it and be upset by it. I would like to give him forgiveness, and I'm really glad it motivated me to do something good. Obviously, it was a horrible experience, but here we are, something positive out of a negative, which is the good thing.
So you forgive the man who took the original photograph?
Yeah, I think that's what life's about, you know. Learn from stuff, move on. I'm sure he's learned, I'm sure he's seen me on these things and been like, oh, Jesus. So hopefully he's learned his lesson.
You did suffer some pretty horrific trolling when you started to campaign for this, didn't you? I mean, that must have been really stressful.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest bit, I think, actually. I mean, never having had political experience, I would have thought the politics would have been the hardest bit, but it wasn't, in fact, with the support I had. The hardest bit was the rape threats and stuff like that I have. They've actually come out in the last couple of days again, but I think it's really key to remember that although I do get a lot of those because of the platform I have now, I get far more supportive messages now, and I have a way thicker skin, so I'm okay.
A quick one from Stephen, who says, I couldn't agree more with the young woman that upskirting should be a criminal offence. Does it apply to both men and women?
Of course it does. It's for people.
Yes.
Great. Congratulations again. Sorry about my cough.
Don't worry.
Thank you so much for coming on the programme.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, just one final thought. You said this. You said that the fact that this had become legislation represented the best in society and politics. Why do you say that?
Because I'm a working class Scouser who had no political law experience, who just worked really hard, and being invited into these spaces that I've never been in before and supported by people like Lucy, it's grassroots campaigning and it's politics at its best. And this was all going on during Brexit and they were working their asses off to get it done. So it really shows that community and politics can work together to achieve something really great.
OK, thank you both. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Gina Martin, congratulations again. Is that what you say when you get the law changed? I think it probably is. Congratulations, yeah.
I'm into that.
And Lucy Fraser.